Good evening and welcome to the council advisory meeting of May 11th, 2026. This meeting is being live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and is also being held in chambers. I acknowledge we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq, and honor all those who care for it, including African Nova Scotian communities. I call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. We note that we have all members of council tonight. Begin by asking if there are any conflict of interest issues before we commence. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a conflict with the in-camera item.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. We have an agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? There being none, I would take a motion, Deputy Mayor Kroll, and a seconder, Councillor Baker. All those in favor, please signify by raising. Those opposed, motion is carried. We have a set of minutes from the April 13th CAC meeting. I have one change myself on page 6. The last question that was asked to the chief was actually asked by me. So it says Councillor Maxwell, but that was me. It's the only change I see. Any other changes to the set of minutes? There being none, we will file those. We'll move on to department reports, and we'll start with Director Bell from Engineering and Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and I'll start tonight's overview of my report with Kentville Water Commission. Really an update just on operations. We're pleased to report that Public Works installed, I guess, our first ever automatic flusher on Alicia Boulevard to service the streets of Carmen Drive, Duncan Avenue, Alicia Boulevard, and Glen Lee Drive. The way this water network loops back on itself causes the water for several customers to often have less than desirable water color and clarity due to the lack of movement or turnover of the water in the main. This has resulted in frequent complaints and call-outs to our Water Commission department to run a hydrant a few times a month, which is both time-consuming and difficult to do safely in the winter months since the water freezes on the street. The new automatic flusher was purchased under last year's capital program, but arrived too late in the year to install. So we installed it last week, and it is programmable for both frequency and duration and drains underground to an existing drainage system. So we are still fine-tuning the frequency and duration settings, but are confident that residents will experience better water quality and less call-outs for the operators. No issues under sanitary sewer service this past month. Traffic Authority, just an update that spring road work, including line painting, patch paving, and full street paving and other large capital works will span from now until late fall. We've received an update that the patch paving is set to start. Actually, I think I do touch on that. I do, I'll skip over that until later. But we'll keep our webpage and socials updated on project start dates, but as always, expect travel disruptions during the busy construction season starting basically a week from tomorrow after the long weekend. Under projects, Public Works and Engineering Department are working with the contractor on the Mitchell Brook culvert replacement to advance the project along. The project, we've received our shop drawings and all that good pre-construction stuff, and this work has to work in the dry months of really in July and August, so that's when we anticipate construction to happen out there. I've mentioned that before, but it'll result in 24/7 temporary traffic lights out there to make that site safe and move traffic through that construction zone for that period of about 4 to 6 weeks. AT project, the final phase of the ICIP funded active transportation sidewalk project, focusing on the north side of Main Street between West Main and Webster Street, has now closed for tender, and staff it says under my report, it says we're reviewing the submissions, but we have reviewed and made that award just today. And one of the last project updates is on the provincial paving program. So I'm pleased to announce that we were successful in our provincial funding application for $500,000, matched for a total of $1 million of main route street repaving. Only provincial trunk routes qualify for this system from the province. And following our assessment, the worst conditions of our trunk routes were the west end of Highway number 1, known as Park Street here in town. So we chose the section from basically just west of Shiloh Drive, where Access Nova Scotia is, to just west of Acadia Drive. That's about 1.5 kilometers. In addition, as long as the budget allows, we plan to repave the section of Aberdeen Street from Webster to Main, which will complete that last piece of the downtown loop that we did the other streets surrounding it last year under the programs where we did Main and Bridge and Webster Street. So Aberdeen piece will complete that downtown loop all under one project, and that tender is set to close May 20th next week for June and July construction. And lastly, I did start to say that earlier, that our patch paving program has been awarded, and we expect patch paving of the main route to begin after the May long weekend, so basically a week from tomorrow. They were just talking to them today, and they expect to be in town Tuesday next week to start the downtown paving and move to side streets throughout the summer. Those are the highlights in my report.
Thank you, Director Bell. I'll open the floor to any questions. Councillor Andrew.
So I have a question about paving, and it's just because I hear it a lot, and I know I'm wondering, you know how every winter we complain about the cold, and every summer we complain about the heat, and every year we complain about potholes. Is there any evidence, just because I've received a number of communications, and I want to take them seriously because I can't say definitively whether the roads are not lasting in a way they seem to before. It just seems like some of the potholes, not only are they very prevalent and numerous, but they're also sometimes very deep. Is that just a perception that we have this time of year, or is there? I'll leave it there. You know what I'm being asked.
Yeah, every spring I say it's similar, Councillor, that, oh my gosh, they've really taken a beating this winter. And then when it seems like when the sort of the dust settles, they're the similar, I see similar potholes and you know, repairs needed basically every winter. When you take East Main as an example, where we paved from essentially here in the downtown, but we started that August phase before the downtown piece was done with the pipe work, but we paved from basically Chester Avenue to Southview last fall, or last summer rather. That section of pavement was paved in 93, 94. So that's 32 years old. That's the useful life. So that, you know, it did receive patching over the previous 4 or 5 years, and probably even 10 years before that, but hadn't been resurfaced in 30 years. So that actually, you know, above and beyond the life of the asphalt. This phase out on Park Street it certainly has a similar original pave date. We're talking 90s when that was paved out on the west end of Park Street. So no, those dates are, okay. Time flies, but I think it's lasting. Certainly patch paving does not last. No, the patching goes in, the patching gets beat out in those same areas over the previous winter, and we're back to doing the same patching on the same sort of holes. But, you know, and we're only milling off 3 inches on average of the old pavement, and we noticed even in some cases right on the downtown here in front of Town Hall, when they milled that much off, there really wasn't any more pavement. You expect to see 5 inches of pavement on most provincial routes or, you know, main streets. We even call on new subdivision roads, we call for 2 lifts to total 4 inches. So we put down 2.5 and then 1.5 for 4 inches of pavement. We're not seeing that on some of our old roads that weren't our roads. They were, you know, they've been downloaded to us, but they were provincial roads. But we certainly, I remember this when I first moved to the valley. That's why I remember the date of East Main Street, because that project was done over a couple of phases in 93, 94. So it's 33 or 2 or 3 years old. So
okay, thank you.
It's served its life. Long answer.
Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thanks, Dave, for your report. I'm interested in the automatic flusher, since it's the first one we've had. I don't know how it works. Can you tell us in a few sentences how it works?
I can.
And you tell us how often you would put it on and that kind of information?
Yeah, they're not a cheap unit. They're north of $12,000, so they're not something we're going to put in many places, but this was a troublesome area. They look like, we actually had someone drive by that worked for Nova Scotia Power and said, "What are you guys doing with that?" It looks like a underground power box that you would see in most of the subdivisions that we have that have underground power, URD box. That's the style of cover that they use. So this one's located on Alicia. You'll see if it's the newer, shinier one, you'll notice where it is. It's that crossover walkway between Alicia and Dalhousie, where we put it on the corner of that walkway. And it's there for a reason, because we have a high pressure loop on the upper levels of Alicia and McDonald Park Road and those parts of that subdivision. And then the lower section is a different pressure system, which was resulted 26 or 7 years ago when we built the water towers. So instead of putting in multiple large PRV chambers, and I won't make this any longer than I have to, we decided we had the opportunity to separate the pressure loop and have the folks that lived up at the higher elevations of McDonald Park and Alicia and then the newer phases of that subdivision after we had the water system turned on. They're on the high pressure system. The lower pressure system would have had too much pressure if they stayed on the water right from Prospect Tank, which is what the high ones have. So they come, the lower subdivision is fed off of Park Street as you come up Palmater and Duncan. The flusher, what it does, we chose a 2-inch system that it taps into the water main, much like a large apartment building service would be, 2-inch line, and it goes up into this, again, looks like a power URD box, but in there is a controller that opens, and it's Bluetooth programmable. We chose for that minor upgrade version over the manual one. So from a phone, we can program that to pick. We chose 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, early morning, 2 a.m. You can say, I want it to run for 2 hours or 1 hour, and then you can throttle down, you manually pick the flow rate that you want. You don't want too much velocity because that could stir up things in the system where we have some older pipes, but you want to have the turnover. So it runs and ties into the storm drain, and you wouldn't even hear it actually. You wouldn't see it, you wouldn't hear it, but it flushes and drains, and then as it turns itself off after the set period, much like a hydrant, it self-drains, so it can't freeze. So it can run, and it will run 12 months of the year without the risk of freezing or causing any road in the water, that sort of thing. So it's a completely out-of-sight underground system other than that plastic
great.
box.
Yeah.
It's a nice unit. We'd like to have one down on the other troublesome areas, the end of West Main opposite the Public Workshop, and we've had lots of calls on that hydrant runs sometimes 24/7, and we don't like to waste water, but we also need to keep the system moving and give safe and clear water to folks. So that's one that we will investigate, and I may try a somewhat less expensive 1-inch version there to, they're still going to be, a big ticket item, but I don't believe that's in our water capital project for this year, but we'll certainly plan for it in a near future project.
Well, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First one, you may or may not be able to answer. Came from a citizen. Going out the east end, we have like a brick wall all the way out, going out on both sides.
Both
kind of
sides.
to support the hills that are there. I'm assuming that the town is responsible for the brick wall because it was the town that put that in quite a while, a way back. Do you know who is responsible for the stone wall? Is that the cemetery people or who would repair that because it's starting to crumble a bit and so on?
Part A to your question, Councillor, yes, the brick wall is ours. That went in same time I mentioned in 93-4 when we changed totally redid East Main Street 30 plus years ago and did some substantial cuts and fills and took some some big elevation out of some of those properties and had to put the retaining walls in to what you see there today. So those walls, on certain sides, they're actually at least 2, if not 3 tiers of the walls. And I don't think they go beyond the town property. I assume they're all on us, but they were certainly part of a capital project.
Yeah.
And like the pavement, they are 30 years old. And we've done some repairs and they will perhaps need more. The stone wall, my understanding is it's the cemetery wall, and I don't have an answer for you on ownership, but I suspect it's on cemetery property.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to get clarification on that. The next two are accessibility issues. One is the ramp at the Visitor Information Center. I think we have that on a repair timeline or something. It's not acceptable, I guess. Do we know when that repair will happen?
It's not directly under Public Works, but I think Lindsay Young, who manages the VIC, has that as a capital project. I think that is certainly in the works. I think it was deferred from last year, perhaps to this year, Councillor, and is being done this year. I think they looked at a couple different options, whether that was going to be wood or concrete. I would recommend concrete if the budget allows, but we will be assisting Lindsay in that design and or tender this year.
And the second one is, and you know about this, the sidewalk repair that was done at the corner of Campbell Road and Mountain View. I was on the accessibility committee when all these things were being discussed. And it was the intention that we would make our entire town accessible, not just downtown, I believe. And especially on roads that are connector roads or where there's high traffic. So from what I understand, the intention isn't to, because we put that new cement in, that little square, not even a square, kind of a rectangle, we forgot to put a tactile plate, or we don't do that. I'm not sure which it is. I'm under the assumption that when repairs happen in areas like that, that those tactile plates would go in if we're repairing. I'm being told that no, it comes with a replacement. On a cement sidewalk, I've never seen us rip up a whole section of cement sidewalk. Usually when a cement sidewalk is crumbling, we take out that one little piece of cement and replace it. So I'm getting a little bit of pressure as to why we're not going to put tactile plates there unless there's a failure. And then my follow-up question would be, how long do you think it's going to take for that one piece of cement we put in there to fail again?
Right.
So, this is part of our strategic plan, and it's hard for me to answer questions to the public when we're supposed to be being accessible and we're not. So if you could answer that for the public, I'd appreciate it.
I'll do my best. So Public Works is certainly in the repair business, not the replacement business. And that little project that you mentioned started last year as a trip hazard. There was a void behind a catch basin on the corner of Campbell and Mountain View. So it was a three-step approach. They had to replace the catch basin, or at least the top half of that catch basin, in grate. And then second to that, after that repair was done, it was quite a repair to the catch basin itself. Again, in-house through Public Works. And then we replaced the section of curb. And then the third step would have been that panel of sidewalk that had to be removed in order to fix the catch basin and sidewalk, or a curb. So that piece, as you mentioned to me even about a month ago, that asked when it was going to be repaired or repoured, we didn't get it done under the late fall weather window last year, so it was poured, I think, a week ago today, in fact. So I didn't really give it any thought, but Public Works go up and do the repair. So yeah, a repair job. That whole sidewalk was put in back in 95, so it's also 31 years old. If you're going to do tactile plates at a crossing or an intersection of a dead-end street, certainly, as you mentioned, you don't always see a full replacement, but you do when you are in the replacement capital works side, whether that's like the downtown, what we've done for the last, I think, 3 years now. We've widened and replaced and changed part of the AT route, and, you know, that does happen to be downtown, but anywhere where we're doing capital replacements, we have been since, I guess, the bridge itself, when the province did the approaches to the new bridge over the river. That's probably the first plates that arrived in town. Honestly, in town limits were the ones over at the Belcher Lights, and then across the bridge, on this side of the bridge, over around Aberdeen. And then since then, we've adopted the tactile plate policy, certainly, I say policy, practice, of putting them anywhere on a capital project that is a full replacement. If you're gonna do something like the Campbell intersection of Mountain View and James, you need to do it on both sides, you know, to make it practical and safe. So if someone, and they're meant for the visually impaired, they're tactile, but they're not meant to be slip resistant. If anything, they may be even slipperier than concrete because they're steel, and they do tend to sometimes build ice, but they are meant for the visually impaired to be able to feel either with their feet or their assistant, you know, their cane, that sort of thing, to tell they're coming to an intersection. But if you're gonna do one, you really need to do both. So if in my mind, if we were gonna do things like that, we would have to take out the panel on the opposite side. Whether that's the right answer or not, but it's you know, we've done lots of repairs since then. We've never had them in stock ourselves. Of all the repairs that we make, we've never once had a tactile plate installed by our, you know, small team of concrete finishers. But certainly something that, you know, we can definitely stock and have in the future. And any replacements, we did a fairly substantial one over by Elizabeth here. I think it was 2 years ago. There was a large MT&T manhole, if you will, but it's a duck bank access that was breaking up and causing a real trip hazard at the intersection of Elizabeth and, I guess that's still Main Street, not Park Street. Quite a repair that the Public Works did in-house late in the fall, I think 2 years ago. And plates weren't installed there either because they just, you know, it was a replacement, and they did the concrete work. It was at a crossing or the end of a block of concrete where you would meet with another side street like Elizabeth. So it isn't certainly any one location where we haven't done it. We just have not done it. But I understand that, you know, if we're going to be doing it on our capital jobs, we could start certainly doing it on our repair pieces. A lot of our repair pieces aren't at intersections. They're, you know, the middle of a street because there was a water break or a lateral replacement to a house that, you know, you wouldn't put them there. They are typically at crossings or crosswalks. You certainly see them fully at crosswalks where you're crossing perpendicular to a street, and it's not to say that they shouldn't be at the other sort of side crossings where a through street meets a stop sign. But again, it's not something that Public Works forgot because they just have never done it before. But we will.
Yeah, it's disappointing because I know that members of that accessibility committee several years ago were, you know, really excited about us becoming accessible through our whole town. And this is just an example of, I don't ever foresee tactile plates then going in there because it's going to be decades before any of that sidewalks are going to be ripped out of there. And I can see it on, you know, if we're going to replace pavement with cement in a sidewalk. But, you know, this is an active transportation route. It's well used by students from King's Tech and the public. It's a connector road. It's a major road. And, yeah, I just think it's, personally, I would like to see when we're doing repairs like that, we make the effort to do it and do it with the tactile plates in. We're either going to be accessible or we're not going to be accessible. That's kind of how I feel. Yeah, we can be accessible downtown, but are we going to make our town accessible? I guess that's something council's going to have to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the Deputy Mayor had asked about the automatic flusher, so thanks for explaining that. I have fielded some calls from around that area, I'm sure like many other councillors have, so it's nice to see that go in. And to your point around the latter part of that statement, it's probably going to be a few more weeks before it really evens out and folks notice a difference.
Yeah, I think they'll notice it quite quickly, and they see the improvement when we do run a hydrant, and we were running it almost proactively here. Once the weather improved, we were doing it at the very least bi-weekly, sometimes
Right.
even weekly.
Yeah.
This will replace that need to have hose and water running down
Yep.
the side of the road, and,
Yeah.
and having it set for, you know, our first test is 3 days a week for a few hours in the middle of the night, really, 2
Okay.
a.m. 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. And we may even be able to cut that back. We don't want to use any more water than we have to, and we can
Yes.
tell through our own tests, both from chlorine residual and clarity, if you know, if it could be cut back. If we could make that be 2 days a week for 2 hours, that's
Okay.
less water but still good quality. So
Yep.
that's the end goal. For,
Okay, thanks for
residents.
that. I know folks will be really happy
I
that
think,
that's
yeah,
installed.
we're quite impressed with the technology. I think
Good. Good.
There may be more. We don't need a lot of them, but there's places that
Yeah,
that are just
that could use.
areas where we don't want to see hydrants just running.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
it also looks bad. It's you
Yeah.
know, it makes
Yeah.
the lawn around it swampy, like down at by the hub at the end of West Main. So that's
Yeah.
the next one to
Okay.
do for sure.
all right. Just one other thing, just to dovetail on what Councillor Maxwell was referring to. Like in the run of a year, how many of those sort of corner sidewalks would we have to repair in the run of a year? Like, is there an exorbitant amount or?
No, honestly, most of because we're in the repair business, they're oftentimes sidewalk panels that could be in the middle of halfway down a block. So
Yeah.
they wouldn't, if they aren't on a crossing, they're usually because of,
Yeah, I mean, at crossing.
could be anything, could be from, we had one down, the far east end of town near the Kentville New Minas line that just had all spalled
Yeah.
up, but it was not a corner where you'd have any kind of a pedestrian crossing, so it doesn't require. I can't even remember when we did the last one. What we would have done would have been the one I mentioned on Elizabeth 2 years ago. So they're infrequent on a corner. This one was not a sidewalk project. It had not, the sidewalk panel wasn't any worse than the rest of the sidewalk. It was because there was
It was because of the catch
trip
basin.
hazard at the catch basin. There was
Yeah.
really a hole that could have been a foot go down or a
Yeah,
small animal, I guess even, but it was
Right.
a hole, and the catch basin needed to be
Okay.
upgraded, which in turn ended up having to replace one panel of sidewalk.
right. So conceivably, we probably don't do a lot of them per annum.
We
and-
don't do, and that's why we don't even
Yeah.
have those tactile plates. They're not expensive.
Yeah.
They're about $300 per location, but they have to go in the wet concrete when you're placing concrete. They don't go on top of the concrete. They're embedded.
Oh, okay.
So they're not
Okay.
they're not an after top surface thing. They're in the concrete, so they don't,
Yeah.
these take a lot of beating from the sidewalk machines that do the
Yeah.
winter works, and they're cast iron steel, like a steel plate, iron plate really, that is
Yeah,
embedded.
but conceivably,
embedded
we
in the concrete.
could, moving forward, we could put those tactile plates in,
could.
and even if we wanted to replace this one, it's possible to do.
We could stock, we usually use two by two, so two by two
Yeah.
times two, about two of them at every crossing, like you see over here by the island or elsewhere, in the downtown, AT project, or over near the bridge, or over at the bottom of Belcher. And there's actually oblong ones too, but we find most cases the 2 by 2 ones are the most universal and
Yeah.
easiest to stock. So,
Okay.
yeah, we can have a few
Yep.
in there, but they may sit and just rust for 3 years until we do another corner, because corners are rare, but, we did a repair up on Belcher Street, I think, 2 summers ago, at the corner of Apple Tree, and that was just a bus stop and an awkward little corner intersection. But they also, were installed there because it was just to try to make a better place for, that wasn't even a crosswalk, it was just the end of a sidewalk
Okay.
where it meets a street, but,
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Director Bell.
thank you.
We'll now invite Director Matthews up with the finance report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You may have noticed that Finance's report was rather brief this evening. We have no financial schedules as year-end results are still under review and will be brought forward to Finance and Audit Committee in due course at their next meeting. I will note, though, that the interim tax bills have gone out. You'll see that in the report at 7.9 million. Outstanding, remaining at just under 7.1 million. We do have a fair number of people who make payments throughout the year, so there's a prepayment balance that gets applied against their bill as soon as they're issued, in case you're wondering how we collected so much so quickly. So that would have been about 825,000 that would be sitting there waiting for those prepayments. I would also note that I included that we have not received a response yet from the Regulatory and Appeals Board related to the Kentville Water Commission's submission for rate review. You may have noticed that I said there were some minor adjustments. The item that was adjusted was, we know that they're for debt, the way that our consultant does that report, it would be in the year we purchase, they show the debt payment and interest. However, when we know when that will be debentured, it's usually the year later. So we know we're debenturing the current year's items, so it's been moved ahead a year. So that's the difference in the rate, is just by making that shift. So that was an ask, but no other significant changes to what was submitted. We're still waiting for a response. So those are the couple of items I wanted to highlight, but happy to answer any questions if folks have on the written report.
Thank you for that. I had one quick question.
Sure.
The tax bill that just came out is reflective of the new rates, correct?
Correct.
You noted that in there?
Yes.
Just wondering, I know usually the budget's passed after, so we would have gone on half of the last bill, but would it have been to have the new rates on the bill to show the breakdown of the bill that came out for
Right.
for May? I don't know, on mine it just had the total.
It would just have the
Right.
total, yeah. So
Because typically it would have been half of last year's, because the budget's usually passed after,
actually,
right?
no, it's according to policy, because we
Okay.
did a policy change last year.
Okay.
It would be based on the current rate that council has set
Okay,
and the current year's assessment.
okay,
So last year, it would have been the 2025 assessment. Tax rate hadn't been set, so it was the previous year's tax rate. So it didn't really equal half of the prior year's
right,
bill.
okay,
And the policy change said that if it's the current tax rate, so prior to us issuing the bills, council had set a rate, so it was the new rate.
okay.
And this, as to my knowledge, those bills would have the dollar value, the assessed value, but they don't normally show the actual rate, but.
The next one does, the one in
The final.
the final one will
Right.
show the levy and all that, all the fire hydrant
Show
rates.
reconciliation,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yep.
perfect. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually going to ask the same thing, because I've had a few citizens ask me about that, and I said, I'm pretty sure that those respective rates would show on the final bill.
Right.
Like, yes. I didn't know that people could, pay their taxes over the course of a year. Is there any incentive to do so? Are their taxes lower?
No,
Oh. I'm
Looking
just-
for a deal?
I say
No.
that,
no,
I know,
yeah.
but. would-
Sometimes, if it's part of your mortgage, then it gets paid
Yes.
every month, but then it
Yeah,
gets applied
okay.
at the end.
I
And
was-
some people like to just prepay when they have the money.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not gonna happen. You're not gonna get a deal.
People often make arguments they want to pay by credit card,
Oh,
because then they get the points.
yes.
But if you
Then
pay
we
with credit
pay.
card, we have to pay the 2% or 2.5%.
Yeah,
We lose $500,000.
through payment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
You can't do
No.
that either. No
Some
credit
people do,
cards.
but there is an extra
Pay
charge.
the extra charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. I don't see any more lights. Thank you very
Great.
much.
You're welcome.
We'll now invite up Director Shoup with the Planning and Development Report. Nice try, Kate.
I don't know what I did. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just want to run through a few highlights from our report for April. Just to note that we're well into the process of hiring both a business development coordinator and the one-year term planner. So we shortlisted and be having interviews shortly on that, and we hope to get them both in place by early June. A couple notes from Planning Advisory Committee with respect to the plan review. We've already started looking at the draft growth framework for the town. Continue that on Wednesday, as well as looking at flood risk mapping. It's kind of the first two big milestones to look at with the statements of provincial interest. With respect to development permits in April, there were 11. There was one very large one on there, so the total was 2.9 million of construction value. There was 2.8 for the Valley Waste expansion, so that took up most of that, but it was a sizable one. In terms of new applications, we held a PPM, I think it was last week. It's been a blur, but to rezone 172 Main Street, so that will be coming forward to PAC later this week as well. In terms of ongoing applications, one notable one on May 21st, we'll be holding a public participation meeting on the program-based housing and emergency shelters proposed amendments. And we look forward to having an active discussion on that night. Last two, just mention with respect to the VIC now, they had the ceremonies last Friday, so it's up and running for the season. And also doing quite a bit with event coordination right now. A lot of people are getting themselves set up for the season for events as well. So happy to take any questions there may be on this report.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Director, for the report. The 10 by 10, the 100 by 100 extension is at Valley Waste, and is that a new processing facility, or what's going on there?
I don't know the nature of the facility itself. I'm not aware of that, but I can find that out for you.
Okay, and the change of use, if I have a second question, change of use to a parcel of land from Parsons to Finished Touch?
Okay, I'll have to dig into that as well.
Is there anything on that we can share, or?
I'm just not aware of it, but I can come back
Okay.
with a follow-up on that.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director. I was at a homelessness committee meeting today, and the title supportive housing was thrown around a lot. So I'm wondering if our program-based housing is the same as supportive housing, or does supportive housing fall under the term of shelters? Can you clarify that, please?
It'd be interesting to know how their definitions work with that. I'm just wondering if that would be a provincial led.
Well, if they're looking for supportive housing units within our town, which is probably going to happen, where would they go? So I'm thinking we're using a term program-based housing, and they're thinking supportive housing as the exact same thing. And I think that we need to make a clarification on that, definitely for the public meeting, because to me, they could fall under the same umbrella.
I'm not aware of what kind of definition they're using, but it would be worth looking into to see how they're defining their work.
I can maybe
Councillor
add,
Andrew? Yeah.
Thank you. I was part of the same meeting, and so, just in an analogous kind of way, it was mentioned that it could be a situation that was based entirely on the individual resident. It was mentioned you could have someone who had 2 visits a week by a housing support week worker, and then that maybe eventually could become 1 visit a week or something. So I think, and I would concur that there's a big difference between something where you have live-in, 24-hour staff or even 12-hour staff versus something that's kind of spotty and various. So I think is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
That's exactly what I was thinking. And if we're making program-based housing as a right in R3, then is there a case for supportive housing being the same as program-based housing? I think not. I think they're different. Then where does supportive housing fall in our plan? Like, where would we put it?
Just off the top of my head, I would agree that they're different things. I think we would support supportive housing in basically all of all of our zones currently. There's nothing to distinguish them. But if there isn't some sort of an office or some supporting structure within that facility or within that building to support the residents of the building, if they're coming in from outside, I don't think that could be anything from massage therapy to more complicated processes. So I don't think we really have a place in that. And we can look at that more as we get ready for that meeting too, but it's a good distinction to keep in mind, definitely.
I just wanted to give you a heads up on that because I see that as kind of a loophole for,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Thank you. Now we'll hear from Director Langell with Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the month of April, our focus was really on hiring, procurement, and launching programs. We successfully got out 7 different procurement pieces for this fiscal, so that's about 50% of our work to be done. And then for programs, just a reminder that all programs, registration days, they open at 6 p.m. And we have staff at Town Hall from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. For those that need to register on site instead of online, to provide those accessibility measures. And then finally, my last piece, I just wanted to thank Becca Craig for her time with the town of Kentville for the past 3 to 4 years. She's moving on to another very exciting opportunity. And our goal is to rehire for that position for the middle of June. Any questions?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions for Director Langell based on his report? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director. I've been reading that we've been having some trouble with vandalism at our facilities. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if you've had any discussions about maybe putting, with the police maybe, and putting cameras in our facilities. I brought this up in October, and since October we've had more vandalism. So I'm just wondering if you've had any discussions about that.
Yes, so you might recall the arena actually just had cameras installed in the month of March. And we've also collaborated with the IT department and KPS to put cameras in at the Rec Hub. So our plan is to put those in the coming month. It is an area that is often vandalized and away from the downtown. So we also house our after-school program there. So it's another added incentive to have the cameras there.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't see any other lights on. Thank you very much. Now we'll welcome Chief Smith up from the Kentville Police Service.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, CAO, and IT Manager Jason Bethune. So tonight I won't get into much in our monthly reports because I apparently missed an email the mayor sent to me, and it's not good when you miss an email from the mayor. So he had asked me to touch on some scenarios that we kind of have downtown. But before I get into that, it's National Police Week from May 10th to May 16th. It's a job that is a tough job, and we have some very good people that work in our service, not just the people on the front lines, but the people within the office. So it shouldn't go unnoticed for those people this week. And I just want to wish them all a happy Police Week because it's a tough job. So
thank you.
The monthly report, I won't get into it too much because I know there's going to be some questions, I hope, but I'll provide some feedback scenarios if there isn't. In the month of March, we had about similar call volume as we did in 2025. As I've mentioned, this time of year is very, very busy for us with training. 34% of our calls were in the downtown core dealing with the ongoing issues that we have. And I will highlight that our street crime member was involved in an extensive file with the integrated unit with the RCMP, involving a lot of the takedowns that have happened with the illegal cannabis. So there's a lot of work that's gone into that, and continues to go in, but I wanted to just touch on that and highlight that as well. So the mayor asked me if I could provide some examples. I guess first, does anybody have any questions on my report before I provide some examples?
Any questions on the chief's report before
There
we?
was a fair bit there. I think there were strategic plan updates as well. So.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
I just have a couple of questions, again, on the occurrence stats. I guess I don't understand them very well, again. So under provincial statutes, there were 13 liquor-related calls, 17 mental health calls, 24 trespass calls. But I can't tell what happened to those calls, like were there charges, were there not charges? So
Yeah.
I can't figure that out. Maybe it's not shown there, maybe we're still waiting for results from those things. I don't know. I was wondering if you could explain
It
that.
could be. So I'll give you, so this will go into somewhat of a scenario what the mayor has asked me to talk about. So Liquor Control Act. So if we, for instance, if we have somebody downtown that we get a call on that's causing a disturbance and they're publicly intoxicated, we respond to that call and let's say they get arrested for public intoxication, they go to cells. It's not common for when that person gets out to then give them a ticket for public intoxication. It's considered what's called time served. They stay in jail for the night and then they're released in the morning. So that would be a liquor offense. The Mental Health Act, that's other activities, so that doesn't fall under charges. You can't be charged for that. It's not a criminal offense or a provincial offense. So that could be something in the scenario where we get a call, someone screaming and yelling. You get on scene and then it turns out that they're talking about hurting themselves. They want to, you know, they can't take it anymore. They've had to deal with too much. They want to hurt themselves. They don't want to live anymore. So I know our board has had presentations. I don't know if council did or not. I don't think council, but they also presented at our meeting over here with downtown business at the time. But we would then, if we deem or believe that they're at risk to hurting themselves, we have the authority under the Involuntary Psychiatric Treatment Act, the IPTA, to arrest them under that act and then transport them to Valley Regional Hospital. Process there can be lengthy. They've put in some new processes within the last actually 4 days. That we're hoping that will make things a lot better for the police resources. But essentially we show up, they get triaged just like every other patient does. We have a hospital room that we take them to and sit with, and we stay with them because they're under arrest, so we have to stay with them. Those are those types of potential mental health activities. But in a situation like that, and I'll go on because the mayor's asked if I could provide examples, but I won't say all the time, but a majority of those calls typically end up with someone being released. It's their, I think they call it their baseline is the best, I won't say the best, the most common answer that we get. This is their baseline. Well, my baseline is different from your baseline, is different from your baseline, as different from the person that we're dealing with. So we take them there with the, you know, the thought that they're going to harm themselves or hurt somebody else, and a lot of times they are released, or as recent as, you know, probably within the last couple months, they did not have the space, which is not an acceptable answer in my book, to not have enough space for the person. And then they're released. So when they're released, we have to take them back to the place that they were arrested or their most usual place, which could be the streets, potentially. So those would be a lot of those types of charges, but it's not necessarily to say that because there's, I can't remember the number, 17 mental health activities, that they were all IPTA arrests. Right. They could have been someone screaming and yelling and just not having a proper baseline.
Okay. And so under that also, there's your criminal code section.
Yep.
what's under the criminal code. And I noticed there that disturbing the peace and causing a disturbance is under criminal code. So is that a criminal charge? You can
Can be.
charge them for that?
Yes, you can, yeah. So you can be arrested, and charged, excuse me, for causing a disturbance. A typical process for something like that is usually, show up, someone screaming, yelling, somebody's called in, made a complaint. They want to go ahead and press charges, they provide a statement. Unfortunately, we can't be disturbed, so we can't be the complainant.
But if you were on patrol and you saw that or you heard that.
We certainly could address it, yes. Yeah.
You could charge
We
them.
we could go up, but we can't cause them, we can't, so, again, we can't be disturbed as police officers, right? So, we would have to deal with it not in that way. Yeah, so, again, you're looking at the root cause. What's causing this person to do what they're doing? Is it alcohol? Is it drug induced? Is it mental health related? There's many things. Attention seeking. So yeah, so in a situation like that, if the complainant, let's say hypothetically the complainant comes forward and says, yes, I want to lay charges. You have a whole different scenario of outcomes because it's all going to base on this person, what their history is. Have they been charged before? Are they on a record? Do they have conditions? All these types of things. So if it's someone that has a very, very short criminal record, it'll be paperwork. They'll get what's called an appearance notice for a court date. Possibly a couple conditions, and then released with a court date down the road. It's, the court systems are difficult. They're not, we have a lot of businesses in town like grocery stores and Lawtons and medical supplies that they're being taken advantage of and stolen from.
Yep.
Day after day after hour. They call us, we lay charges, and it doesn't appear to be anyway in the justice system's interest, I say, to go forward with a lot of the stuff. And it's frustrating for us because it puts a lot of added, it's work. It's not, we just can't, it takes time, right? So, and not that we don't want to do it, but we put it forth and then nothing comes out of it, and then you have the victim, right, which is the worst part, right? So we have someone that's losing thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's not right. It's not right. So yeah, those are a few of the most common incidents we have downtown. I guess I open it up to the floor, Mayor, and I say that for if there was other situations that maybe council's been asked about. Well, I can talk on one that I was made aware of this morning that they spoke to, I believe probably you first. Then they spoke to the Mr. Lohr, and then they spoke to someone else, but they haven't called us. So again, I'll go back to that. If you need to call the police service, emailing the chief of police at 2 o'clock in the morning because there's someone screaming outside of your apartment, I cannot answer that at 2 in the morning. So we need, and again, main line 902-678-3378. We need to call that number. Obviously, if it's an emergency and it's very, very serious, then you call 911. But I can't stress that enough. And the people that call, sometimes they don't want to be mentioned who they are. They can, again, that can be kept as well, right? So it's, but if we don't receive those calls, we don't know about them. But I guess I open it up. Is there anybody that has a scenario or a question? Or?
Before I open up, I just have a question because you kind of touched on it. And I certainly appreciate having local police because I call I'm in town every night and I call often, and you guys are there in minutes, so if not seconds, so I always appreciate that. But my question I'm gonna go back to what you talked about a minute ago. So if somebody is causing disturbance downtown, how many times can they do that? Like, what eventually happens? Where it's just repeat over and over? That's kind of what I'm curious about, because
Yeah, so.
I understand taking them to the hospital, and oftentimes by the time they're seen by someone, they've calmed down, and then they're assessed at a different level than when you took them in. So last night was a prime example, I know, and I felt bad for the officers, because they would come and take this individual back to where they were, and then they would be out again, and it was just like it's unfortunate. So how often can they keep repeating this? I guess would be one question. And the other question is, how often do we use lockdown on average a month? Like, is that something we use often, or when can you use it? And
So I guess I should ask for clarification
Yeah.
on this. When you said, what do you mean by lockdown?
well, I mean, we'd use the facility, jail, I guess. Like, how often? When would we use? When
Oh,
could
the
you
lock
use
up.
that? Yeah,
Okay.
lock up, I guess.
I was like, when do we lock down this town? It's becoming more and more. I mean, I could get statistics. I think last year we locked up 100 and, I think it was around 156 people, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. Not outrageous. I mean, it seems high when you look at it for a small town, but, I've seen us have higher years.
Okay.
But yeah, so for somebody like the individual that we're talking about, without getting into that, it could be a situation where we talk to him, he seems fine. Okay, let's say hypothetically, the person that called, being yourself,
Yeah.
says, I want to lay a charge, I'm disturbed by this person. So we arrest him, release him on conditions, he's released.
Okay.
He breaches again, he might get released, he might not. Again, it's gonna come down to previous records, B, the situation, the whole, whether the Crown decides to hold him for court. I'll be honest with you, this
Yeah.
person needs, not the court system.
Yeah.
He does not need the court system. The court system is not going to help him. He needs assistance from other agencies.
100%.
I'm not saying what he's that makes it right, but, I've been in policing for 27 years, and I'll never forget when a judge on the stand said to me, you will never use the medical system to deal with someone that, criminally. Don't ever bring someone in here for something that they need the medical system to do, okay? Sometimes it might be easy to say that because we deal with calls over and over, and it's like, what's the next step? How do we deal with this? We've tried everything. The next step sometimes is taking them to the hospital. The next step could be taking them to court and asking for an assessment. You know, are they criminally responsible for what they're doing? I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, but this person needs a lot of supports to get him in the right direction. And that person has been there.
Yeah.
And then has faulted. So it's very, very unfortunate. But yes. Any other questions?
Councillor Savage.
That was a lot. It is a lot, and I hear what everybody is saying, and I hear what you're saying, and all I keep saying to myself, and all that citizens keep saying to me, amongst all of us, I'm sure, what is the answer? What is the answer? If it's addictions and mental health and so on and so forth, what do we need? Do we need folks that work in those fields to be in mobile units, or and I went to a breakfast the other morning that Minister Lohr spoke about the budget, but also spoke about the unhoused in Kentville, and that there are real issues with mental health and addictions, and that has to be looked at, and they are looking at it. I don't know what they are looking at it means, but like as a you know, as a chief and being in this, you know, north of 27 years, like, would mobile units help folks that are not it's not a criminal offense, but it's more of medical.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt, but I think, as I've said many other times, if I have someone that's in a mental health crisis that wants assistance with any of that and they can't get in to see somebody for a year,
Right.
then that's an issue. If I have somebody that has addictions and actually wants to get help, because again, you can't force somebody
Of course not, yeah.
to get that help, but if they want help and there's nothing that they can get into other than pay $20,000-$30,000 to a private company, how are they gonna succeed? So until we get those supports in place,
Right.
and it's,
Yeah.
everybody needs to be involved. It's not just health, it's just not just, addictions, it's, it's the police service as well, right? It's our responsibility too. But it's not all of our responsibility. And a lot of times that's where it seems to go. The police will deal with it.
Right.
They're out on the street, the police will deal with it. But there's way more to it than just us. Yeah. It's gonna take a lot.
And if we
Counselor.
had more of like the community crisis navigator, would that be of assistance? Would that
I'm
help
not saying
you?
it wouldn't help. The issue is, again, if we don't have anywhere for our navigator to take the people to get
Right, gotcha.
assistance,
Yeah, okay.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because that's where that revolving wheel, it just continues to happen.
And that's what I think her name was Madeline,
Yes.
that from the hospital that had talked about it when she
Okay.
presented to
Yeah.
police commission. With
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's very unfortunate, like, I analyze the calls every morning, I mean, I'm frustrated, so I can't imagine what frontline staff are like.
Of course.
Because I'm not dealing with it every day.
Yeah.
Because they wanna help, that's what they do, right? That's.
Yeah, of course.
They wanna help people, and they see, how do we get this person to the next step to get better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna take a lot, and nobody's, there's a lot of great people working together, hopefully, to continue to come up with a solution on how to deal with this.
Okay, great, thanks.
But yeah,
Counselor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief. If we can just go and look at your strategic report for a second.
oh boy, now you're going way.
No, you don't have to go too far. I
Okay.
promise it won't be that hard. Because it's National Police Week,
Yes,
and we're talking about the wellness of police officers.
Yeah.
It struck me that in the strategic plan, that NSFM had cut funding for staff wellness.
yeah,
Is
so
that-
many
Can you
people.
explain that grant
Yeah.
and how that works and how we
Absolutely.
are looking after our people, even though that grant's not there?
It's there, it's just not as much.
Okay.
I think what happened is people around the province started to realize that they could apply for this funding. They'd never seen it before. Obviously, the province only has so much money. So the first year, I think we got 3,000, I wanna say, and the town employees applied for it, and they might have got some this year. So having said that, the police got some, but I'm pretty certain that, yeah, the town did as well, so. I think last year we were right around 2,000, and then, this year I wanna say it was down to 1,000, but it's still, obviously still well used and, very supportive. It's money we don't normally have, right? So,
Yes,
yeah.
because I know we've had discussions about retentions and stuff, and so mental wellness is of primordial importance to keeping your team together.
Yeah.
So if there's stuff that this council can do, then I think we should do our best to do it. And that, I see also, you've made no progress with the Compassion Dog Project. Was that a pie in the sky thing, or is that something that you need resources for, or?
Yeah, I'd like to say it at the time. I think when we initially started doing this, I think we had somebody that probably would have took that on, and then that didn't happen, so. It's having the person, the staff member, to be able to commit to that, because it is quite a commitment, because the dog belongs to the service, but that dog lives with the person, the member, the staff member.
So can you explain that? It belongs to KPS then?
Yep, it's a
And it-
compassion dog for KPS,
Okay,
but let's say if you were working with us, you could say, I'll bring the dog to work every day, I'll train the dog, I'll take the dog to events, all those types of things. So it's
quite an undertaking.
It's a huge commitment, yeah.
Okay.
One that we're still not giving up on, because I hope someday someone's gonna come forward and say, our last person we were hoping was gonna do it, that has too many dogs now.
Okay, so what would it take?
What would it take?
Yeah,
There's no fee to it, there's no cost to it at all,
Yeah.
it's fully funded. It would be having someone come forward and taking on that responsibility.
and the benefit to KPS and the people that they serve?
I
Is
think
that
it's
the
a benefit
compassion?
to the service as well as the public, right? Because it, you know, hey, it's police week, so any events we would go to, the dog would come with. I mean, you know what kids are like with dogs. and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seniors' homes, court, you have a victim that's, you know, PTSD, stressed, whatever.
So it needs to be specialty trained dogs?
It's very specially trained. Yeah, it's
Right.
not just like my dog that only sits for me.
Okay, I just wanted to learn more about that and see if
Yeah.
that's something we can continue to support. or what.
It's something that we're not, I still haven't said no to, because I've seen successes in other places, and I would like to implement it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
I just had a couple more clarification questions. So if disturbing the peace is a criminal code, we can charge them, take them to court, and then a police officer can ask for an assessment to be done on that person. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so potentially,
Potentially.
depending on the whole circumstances,
Right,
right? So,
right.
you know, if you have, it's very tough, because I'll tell you, Counselor, what will happen is, let's say this person's been taken to the hospital, and the doctors deem that this person is, that's their base normal, that's when it becomes very difficult. It's not an easy scenario.
How many times can you take them and ask for assessment?
To the hospital?
Yeah, like when you take them to court, you say, okay, this week we're gonna ask for an assessment, doctor does an
Yeah.
assessment, next month, same thing, we need another assessment
No,
because.
yeah, I would say in my, I won't say my career, because I can't think back to all those times, but, let's say in the last 5 years, I can think of probably a handful of people that we've said, okay, we've done everything we can. And so then that's when we lay out the case right before the court. These are all the situations that we've gone through, and seek an assessment. And the Crown can say yay or nay, or the judge can say yay or nay, right? So it's very difficult, because again, you're going on someone's rights, right? So, but yeah.
Okay, so then, this is very much a justice system issue. So, and I'm sure your police union has heard about this issue from many different departments. I'm wondering if your union has had any discussions with the Justice Department to try and solve this issue. Is anybody from your union going to Justice and saying, you are creating a big problem for us and all of our different organizations throughout the province, because this is what's happening?
Yeah, so, I mean, the union, it's not a huge union, but, so the union will bring issues to us. We've gone as far as the Nova Scotia Chiefs as well, and speaking on this. We've gone as far as myself or the deputy chief reaching out to the Crowns to say that this is obviously very frustrating, what's going on with these issues, it's not being solved. Again, we can't tell the justice system what to do, we can only express our concerns. But yeah, they don't go untold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, then I will make sure that every time we have a homelessness committee meeting, I'm gonna bring up about justice, so that the MLA hears about it. Because it is a problem, and I think there's also a big difference between being homeless and having mental health issues. I think those are two completely separate issues. And we can house as many people as we can house, but if somebody has a mental health issue, they can't be in a house by themselves. So we're trying to solve a homelessness issue and kind of throwing in mental health there as well, and that's never going to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, thank you.
And again, I'll throw the mental health issues, I disagree to a point that you could live on your own. But if there's situations that we're, responding to calls all the time, then that makes that very difficult.
Those
But
are
yes.
those are the people
Yeah.
I'm talking about. The maybe 10 people maximum that are causing trouble in our downtown.
I'd say we're more to that now, Councillor Robin, honestly. I think
Yeah.
that number's increased.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got to do something because we don't want to lose our community. That's for sure.
I think, I don't see any other lights on. Thank you, Chief, for that. I think from my perspective, and I talk to the province frequently, these groups that are set up, these organizations that are here, they're doing their part and they're helping people, and we can't not say that they're not. I don't think that they're equipped. They don't have the tools in place to deal with those type of individuals. And so I just want to make it clear, it's not a policing issue. They're not trained in psychiatry, right? That's not their job. So, but they're on the front line to do that. That's the only option that we have. So if someone's causing mischief or having a mental breakdown on the street, then who's going to be called? The police, whether it's me calling or anyone else, or even, and I'm sure that those organizations call the police as well, I would presume, if they're having issue too. So that's who they end up having to be, the police have to deal with that. So it really goes back to, it's just my opinion, province is funding these groups and they are doing good work, but this is the part that's missing from the puzzle. They don't have the tools to deal with these situations, and unfortunately the whole town pays the price. That's my point. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move on now to recommendations. We have the first one, which is policy 111 banners, and the recommendation is that council approve policy 111 banners. Moved by Councillor Savage, Councillor Maxwell as a seconder. Is there any discussion on this? Nobody's interested in banners? All right, we will open the floor for the vote. Open the vote. Oh, we do have one question. Councillor Baker, you just got in at the last second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I take it this was generated from interest from the Legion in order to fly memorial banners during the month of December. I take it that there are also other organizations that are interested in doing similar things. Do we know what that exposure is? Like,
Well,
what's
they'll
it gonna
come
look
as
like?
once the policy's approved, I guess, they'll come as interest comes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, voting is now open.
And my microphone is still on.
And voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. The next item is Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Guarantee Resolution. The recommendation is that council approve a guarantee resolution of $193,446 for Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management regarding the 26-27 fiscal year capital budget.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Baker as a seconder. Any discussion on this one? No discussion, we will open the vote. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to public comments. Don't see any members of the public here, so we'll move on. Now we have one item we have to discuss in camera, so I'll take a motion to enter into a closed session. Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Andrew as a seconder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. We are... Yeah,